Hello there, Alaskans, wherever you are. Welcome to the Must Read Alaska Show. Coming to you from somewhere in Alaska. This is the place where we talk about, you guessed it, Alaska. Where we keep the mainstream media on their toes and where we are standing up for what's right in a world run by leftists. You can find out more by heading over to mustreadalaska.com and also checking out the Must Read Alaska YouTube channel for some really great content. But first, let's get this party started.
Well, everybody, welcome to the Must Read Alaska show, coming to you from somewhere in Alaska. We're really happy to have you with us here today. And my co-host from Nikiski is John Quick. He's also with us. And John, how's everything going on your end? I know you're working on all the technical stuff as we speak. I can see you doing that.
Yeah, things are going well. Thanks so much, Suzanne. I'm in Girdwood this week. I was in Girdwood this weekend, still here, and having a blast here with the family, living the dream, swimming in a saltwater pool. Can't go wrong here. I think it's Girdwood is a great place to kind of check out for the weekend, and we do it often. So we're just having a blast.
Well, that's good. It gives your kids a chance to swim in the pool and to do some fun stuff. You're going to go up to the Oasis today, or are you going to just head home?
We are headed home. We did the tram yesterday, which was a lot of fun. My kids thought it was the coolest thing in the world. It might as well have been Disneyland. So We've had a good weekend, and we're headed home in the next couple hours, probably.
Very good. Well, listen, everybody, today is April 4th, and the newsletter is out for the day. If you don't get it in your inbox, in your email, then check it out on Facebook. We also posted it there this morning. And I also did a special thing. I posted it on the website today. I decided, you know what, I'd take out all sort of the little posters and visual arts in there and just put it in kind of plain. It's plain text in there on the website. So if you don't get the newsletter, you can take a look at it today. We would love to have you sign up for the newsletter up on the right-hand side of mustreadalaska.com. It goes out 3 times a week. It's a lot of work to put out, and it's got, I think we're setting it now to 10,400 readers, and appreciate every single one of you for being a reader. Big show today, John. We're not going to get away without talking about Sarah Palin, so we'll have to buckle up for that one. But first of all, I want to thank Charlie Pierce for Governor for sponsoring our show. We really appreciate the support. Charlie Pierce for Governor is our first sponsor that we've ever had for our show. And I know that we've got some really good stats for the Must Read Alaska show. Do you want to just kind of fill me in on those for a sec before we go on talk about the big news over the weekend?
Yep. So this last month we had just over 21,000 downloads, which is very exciting. It makes us probably the biggest podcast in Alaska. And we want to thank folks for tuning in and listening. And without literally you all listening, we wouldn't be there. So that's exciting for us. We continue to be top 1 or top 3 podcasts in the whole U.S. in the government section on Podbean, which is one of the kind of podcast metric websites out there. And we just every week we kind of pinch ourselves, and we can't believe this many people listen to our podcast. So we're pretty excited.
Right. Well, we started out on a lock. We thought we'd try it out, and now I think last I checked, we're almost reaching 100,000 downloads. And that doesn't even count the number of people who are watching us on Facebook, which we're now using the Facebook platform, and it's working really well. Well, we were going to have a guest today, but boy, what a rock and roll weekend we had. We had a lot going on this weekend. First of all, before we get to the Sarah Palin stuff, I just want to remind everybody, if they are out there and waiting to get their ballot in, don't wait another minute. Get your ballot in. Now, there's a lot of issues going on with the Anchorage election. This is the election for some seats on the assembly and 2 school board seats, as well as a series of bond packages, of which I recommend voting no against all of them, just to send the message. I don't think they should ever get away with these bond packages with a great majority. Unfortunately, many of our Anchorage voters do vote yes for them because they all seem to pass. Very seldom do they fail in Anchorage, and it just sort of keeps pushing up that tax cap. Up and up and up. And boy, am I hearing it from homeowners in Anchorage, how difficult it is getting to be able to afford their home because their taxes are going up so much. But that election ends tomorrow. And so you either it's a mail-in election in Anchorage. And let me tell you what, you've got to get that ballot postmarked. It's not enough to drop it in the mailbox, because if for some reason the post office doesn't scan it or post a cancellation on it, it won't count because the Division of Elections won't know when it was mailed. And that happened when the Anchorage election office, which is their Division of Elections, was contracted by the city of Juneau last fall to handle their elections. They got like 8,000 ballots that were not counted because, my goodness, people mailed them, but the post office didn't put a cancellation on them. So when they got to Anchorage to be counted, they weren't counted. Nobody knew when those ballots were mailed. So if you're going to get your ballot in the mail at this point, make sure you stand there and get a cancellation on it from the post office person themselves across the desk, or drop it in a secure drop box. And those drop boxes are located around the city. At City Hall, you can find one. The Lusac Library has a very convenient one outside near the book drop. And I really encourage everybody to get their ballot in. 14% is all we had on Friday, and that is just unbelievably low. That is a terrible, terrible number. And what happens when 14% of the people vote? That means the municipal workers are voting, the state workers are voting, the federal workers are voting. Everybody who is who gets their paycheck from your tax dollars is voting. And so if you don't vote to balance that out, then you're going to basically allow them to continue doing what they do, which is keep themselves in a job there, hopefully.
Yeah,
that's
unfortunate. And, usually it takes something to piss conservatives off to get them out to vote. And I don't know if there's something big enough this election cycle that pissed enough people off to get them out to vote.
Well, so let's talk about for a minute what I think might happen, because it's fun to guess. I mean, I don't have any data that tells me that this is the truth, but I kind of think that Randy Solt in South Anchorage District 6 seat, running against John Weddleton, I kind of think he has some pretty good chances there. I actually like his odds. And I also feel real good about Stephanie Taylor, who is running against Forrest Dunbar. She is the most exciting candidate of a generation for us in Anchorage. She's an African-American woman running against a hardline Democrat lawyer who hates America, hates the Constitution, and believes the Constitution is racist. And she's standing up and saying, you know what, I don't think that we need him representing us. And Stephanie Taylor is a great candidate if you're there in East Anchorage. Liz Taylor is running over in West Anchorage against Cameron Perez Verdia. Cameron Perez Verdia that's just a weird one. I just mentioned he is Shirley Holloway's son. Shirley Holloway was the Commissioner of Education under Tony Knowles. And I do not know why, but he took his wife's name. He's no longer Cameron Holloway. He's got his wife's hyphenated name, Cameron Perez Verdia. And he's another real hard leftist on the assembly. And Liz Vasquez would make a tremendous assemblywoman. She's a very skilled lawyer. She's from Puerto Rico, has a lot of hardship in her background that she overcame, but is a really solid conservative, and would really like to see her there as well. Kathy Hensley is running against Meg Zalatel, sort of the Wicked Witch of Midtown, who really is kind of double dipping. She's not only an assemblywoman, but John, she also now is running the homeless industrial complex for Anchorage. So she's got herself all kinds of conflicted there. And Kathy Hensley is a marvelous candidate. And if she doesn't win this seat, and I think she's got an uphill battle because it's a real liberal district. That's just the way it is. I really hope that we can find something else for her to run for, because I think she's one of our best candidates. She's so smart.
Yeah, it's just astounding to me that somebody like Meg can get a job like that, and they could care less, the other team, if there's a conflict. God forbid Mayor Bronson try to get people on to his staff or on his boards that have family members that potentially have conflict, and it makes like the front page news. And
absolutely,
and she derives her paycheck from things that the city of Anchorage is spending millions of dollars on, and it's just the average Tuesday over there, no big deal.
That's right. And then over in the school board, the conservative candidates for the school board, and those are voted on district wide here in Anchorage. We don't separate those out by district. Rachel Rees, and she is a helicopter pilot from the US military and super conservative patriot, and Mark Anthony Cox, who is also running, and he's running against Margot Bellamy, this school board chair. So those are my picks, and I just wanted everybody to know what my picks are. I haven't had time to write an endorsement column, but I'm going to try to get to it today. But we're running out of time, folks, so get your ballot in. Now, to the heart of the matter. This was a crazy weekend. It started out on April Fool's Day with 51 people signing up for to fill the temporary seat for US Congressman Don Young, who died on March 18th. And 51 people signed up, not just they signed up over the course of a few days, but there were a whole bunch of them that came in on April Fool's Day, and it was nuts just watching them all sign up, and then watching the Division of Elections updated site with those names. And among those names were Sarah Palin, of course, as everyone knows by now, and Santa Claus. Santa Claus being a city councilman from North Pole, used to have a different name, but he changed his name, kind of like Cameron Perez-Verdia changed his name, kind of like Chris Tuck changed his name. Santa Claus lives in North Pole. He's a really nice guy. I talked to him on the phone. He's a really sweet guy, but he's a complete Bernie Sanders socialist. I mean, in my view, I mean, the guy, and probably his own view too, you know, even when I talked to him, he's a very, very nice man, but he's a true believer in socialism. But, you know, the name like Santa Claus, that's just fun. I mean, the national media is just going to have a field day.
Is he the guy that actually sits in that Santa Claus store? Is he like that Santa Claus, or is he just like looks? I know he looks like Santa Claus, but is he like the actual Santa Claus in the North Pole store?
I don't think he's in that Christmas store up there at the North Pole, but he's a super nice guy, and he filed, and of course that gives us a whole lot of contenders. And I wanted to talk a little bit about who I think will be the final four. Now, remember, on June 11th, everybody's going to get a ballot around, I don't know, the third week of May. It's going to be a mail-in election because this is quite sudden. It's a special election. The seat will only go until January when the permanent person is sworn in. And when you get your ballot, there are going to be maybe 51 names on it. People have till noon today to drop off this race, and one's already dropped off, so we're down to 50 names, and a write-in section as well. So you're going to get a huge ballot, and it is going to have a lot of names that you don't recognize on it, and people who are not actually serious but signed up as a sort of a, I guess, April Fool's Day joke, because that was the final day. And among those names, we've got Sarah Palin, who I think everybody recognizes is a force to contend with. She is a money-making machine. All she has to do is ask each one of her 4 million followers on Facebook to give her $1, and she's already got a really good start for her congressional race. She plans to run, of course, here for the temporary seat as well as the permanent seat. So remember, we have the June 11th is the deadline for the temporary seat election for the primary. You'll pick one person, and the top 4 vote getters go to a special election, general election for August 16th. It's going to be held concurrently with the regular primary. It's really nuts. It's very confusing.
I think Sarah Palin's going to be a fundraising machine, just like you said. You know, if folks remember back when the Tea Party was big, she was all over the Tea Party, and I'm sure she has a Rolodex full of folks that owe her a favor or a speaking engagement or a fundraiser or two, because she's went and spoke at their fundraisers or their get-togethers, and I think she is going to raise a ridiculous amount of money. You know, she's got folks like Newt Gingrich making statements that she would be a great congresswoman, and we're just not going to see that kind of those huge political endorsements on, I don't think, any other candidate that's in the race. And so, you know, as I think a lot of people that are like the inside baseball political people don't like Sarah Palin for whatever reason, but I think the average Joe and Jane that, you know, that are voters that don't really pay attention to the politics besides just voting when the vote comes up, they like Sarah Palin because the one-liners that she says resonates with folks. You folks that live in Alaska. And oftentimes, whether we like it or not, those are the things that people remember politicians for. And she is the best at those kind of one-liner, flashy Twitter saying, flash
like
pan
drill,
sayings.
drill. Yeah.
And so, I think she's gonna. I think it's gonna be an interesting race between probably her and Begich.
I kind of think it's coming down to her and Begich. But right now, we also have to take a look at. Now, remember, when she ran before, she ran against the Alaska Republican Party. She is not a friend of the Alaska Republican Party. In fact, after her race was over for president, I think she took the money from her accounts for her various campaign accounts. She didn't donate any of that back to the party, even though the party really helped her get elected governor. She donated to a charity, and that was political money that had been intended to help get her elected. And when she was done, she didn't give it back to the people who brought her to the dance. She just said, well, I'll give it to a charity that I like, which is fine, except that it didn't sort of endear her to the party, which is always looking for, who can we support next? She's not really friendly with the party. She has run against them as like the Republican Party is corrupt. And so I think it's going to be kind of a little bit awkward for her when she tries to get party support. That's going to be really interesting. But let's take a look at Al Gross. So Al Gross ran in 2020 against Dan Sullivan. He did pretty well. He got 146,000 votes. And so when Don Young died, Al Gross was on the first plane back from Cambodia, where he was doing some volunteer work or something over there teaching surgery. And he came back and filed. And so here's the deal with him. He also has a huge Rolodex. That guy also raised a lot of money nationally because he's got inroads in the Democratic Party, even though he's undeclared. So he's got these people who donated to him before. He also has a Rolodex, you could call it that. I love Rolodexes. Of 146,000 people who voted for him once and they'll vote for him again. That propels him to the top 4 list. Now, to be clear, Alaska's population turns over at about a rate of 6% a year. So he probably doesn't have all those votes, but it looks to me like he's going to have the backing of the Democratic Party, and that Chris Constant is just not going to have any backing at all, that everybody's going to put all their chips on black on this one and go with Al Gross, even though he's not a registered Democrat, but this is how it works in the Democratic Party. They can't get a Democrat elected. So Al Gross is got, I would say, 140,000 solid votes in this primary. And that is not to be taken lightly, because the people who make it to the final 4, they might get there with 17% of the vote, with 12% of the vote. And also, to be clear, most primaries are dominated by supervoters who take this as a sacred mission to vote. I mean, it's their duty, they're patriots, they vote. These are the people who vote all the time. They're the ones who vote in the primaries. This time, everybody and their dog is getting a ballot. So it's going to be amateur hour. We're going to have people voting in the primary who've never voted in primaries before, and they're going to get a ballot, and who knows what's going to happen. Because
they're going to be like, oh, look, there's a doctor. I want to vote for a doctor.
they could vote for him, or they could vote for Santa Claus. So I can see that we're going to have somebody down at the Fairview Inn and drinking at the bar in Talkeetna, and they're going to look at a ballot that has 50 people on it. They're going to say, oh, to heck with it. I don't like any of these people. I'm voting for Santa Claus. So that's the Santa Claus vote right there, is the person who doesn't typically vote in a primary and really is not paying attention to politics very much, but just is kind of the to heck with all of you in politics vote. And we got a lot of those in Alaska. A lot of people who just say, all those politicians are corrupt. I'm going with Santa Claus. And besides, Santa Claus, he's only going to go for the temporary seat. He said he wouldn't go for the permanent seat. So some people will say, I'm going with him because that's kind of a pure thing. He only wants to hold the seat temporarily. And yeah, I actually think he has a shot at being on the final 4.
That'd be hilarious. And my favorite part about Dr. Al Gross is after he lost the election, this last election cycle, he went back to his hometown and ran for the hospital service board seat and lost, which
in his hometown.
I just think is hilarious. He was able to get 140,000 votes from the elite Democrats in Alaska,
True.
but the people that knew him best in his hometown said thanks, but no thanks. And I think that's, I don't know if that's telling of how his next election is going to go, but I just think it's hilarious that, he ran this multi-million-dollar campaign, loses and goes back and loses in his hometown. So I always that's my biggest thing I remember him by.
Yeah, that was in Petersburg, and I will say that those people in Petersburg know him best. There are a lot of stories out of Petersburg about Al Gross, and a lot of them never came out in the last election because, well, I guess because the Dan Sullivan campaign was just really, really decent about it, and they just decided that they were just going to leave that all alone. But yeah, you never know when that stuff will come out. So then you come down to what I think is our fourth candidate for that. I actually think that it's between Sarah Palin and Nick Begich. Nick Begich has been running since October, I don't know, the third week of October. And he has a pretty good tribe. In fact, today I noticed that Rhonda Boyles put her endorsement behind him. Rhonda Boyles is she's the treasurer of the Alaska Republican Party. She is the former co-chair of the Don Young campaign with Nick Begich. Last go around in 2020, she was the co-chair with Nick Begich for Don Young's campaign. And now she is endorsing Nick Begich as well as a lot of other people. Perry Green endorsed over the weekend. And the list of very influential political people around the state and people who are influential in communities, just a huge list. He's got well over 150 major endorsements at this point. Now, he's not going to be able to raise the money that Sarah can raise. Sarah can raise $4 million overnight. Nick's got like $1 million right now in his bank account for this race. I mean, it's going to be really tough, but I hear that Al Gross has 500,000. I think he will be able to raise a lot more. Anyway, I believe those are the final four that will go to the ballot in August. But remains to be seen. There's a lot more on that list. There's the Andrew Halcrows, there's John Coghill, there's Tara Sweeney, who's actually put together a pretty good organization. But nobody has the huge star power as Sarah Palin. She's got Corey Lewandowski working on her campaign with her. He's from the Trump world. She's got like 18 people working on her campaign already. And
I love it, 18 people.
And Nick has one. Nick Begich has one person. So it's like, wow, okay, that's impressive, right?
Yeah, I think there's going to be almost if you kind of looked at it from the inside, different strategies. Sarah Palin could probably care less about the Republican Party of Alaska helping her, endorsing her. She probably gives them the two middle finger, yeah, and says thanks but no thanks, because she can show up to a meeting and get 10 times the amount of people that they would create a meeting and spend 6 months planning. She would drop her name on Facebook, says I'm going to be here, and 200 people will show up. And so where Nick Begich is going to be very, very more strategic, and he's going to go after endorsements of real Alaskans that matter. Sarah Palin's going to get a bunch of very high up, Trumps and Newt Gingriches and those kinds of folks.
Yeah, Nikki Haley this weekend.
And Nikki Haley. And I think you're going to see Nick Begich just pounding the pavement with talking to real folks on the ground in Alaska. And it'll be interesting to see how it plays out, because I think Sarah has the shot of possibly getting maybe folks that are conservative that don't really vote that much, because they only show up when like a Donald Trump's on the ballot, or something huge is on the ballot, and then they go back and they live in the woods. Sarah Palin has got the charisma to bring those people out of the woods.
And interestingly enough, if she makes it to the final four in August, which I think she will have a very strong influence on sort of how things go down ballot. If she pulls out a lot of Republicans because of her name, they will vote Republican down ballot typically. If the same may be true for the Democrats, maybe they'll see Sarah Palin and it'll motivate them to go and vote. So that's going to be a factor that we're going to be talking about for weeks and weeks to come, and it'll be interesting. I don't know about Sarah Palin. She's an enigma wrapped in a mystery, John.
Yeah, I think being in none of us will know what it's like to be the vice presidential candidate, and the stress that comes with that, and the media literally wanting to destroy you. And she probably could have done 100 different things better, but at the end of the day, you can only do what you can do when you're in the pressure of the moment. And so I personally don't hold any of those, what the quote unquote bad decisions were when she was during that, because I faced something very smaller and similar in my own world. And I know that politics is nasty. It's a nasty dog eat dog world. And, you just got to make the best choice for your family sometimes. And I think that's what she tried to do.
Yeah, I agree with that. And so we're running a poll on Facebook, whether or not you think Nick Begich will win, or I think, are you going to vote Nick Begich or Sarah Palin? And we got some comments under there. People didn't like our poll because you had a frowny face by Sarah Palin. So they said that was biased. So I think we should do another poll, and we should try to figure out if there's another emoji people can use. I think one of the problems we have with those polls, we used to be able to do polls on Facebook, and then they dismantled that feature. So now we kind of have to do thumbs up and frowny face, or thumbs up, and maybe you could do a little care heart person, and that little care, I don't want to use a heart, but something else besides the frowny face, because people were thinking that we were trying to bias it. And the reality is that we have very few emojis that we can sort of choose from.
Yeah, we got 4 emojis, people, and if you go back and look at all of our polls, they're all the same 2 emojis. The emojis mean nothing in terms of who we think is, we're trying to weigh, somebody to go vote for. It's just, we have 2 emojis that we use for every poll since we've been doing this the last 2 years.
Right. And so at this point, Nick Begich is ahead, but there was a surprising amount of support for Sarah Palin in that poll. Although I think Nick is at least 30 to 50% ahead of her on that poll, which is interesting, because obviously our viewers on Facebook, and we have 27,000 followers on Facebook, a lot of them are conservative. And so that they're going for Nick Begich is a really interesting sign. Might be interesting to do another poll and just test a couple of these other ones, like maybe test Al Gross against Sarah Palin as well, and be very interesting to see if who amongst all of these 50 people has the ability to even give her a run for her money. But speaking of run for your money, there is going to be more money pumped in to this election cycle in Alaska than there has ever been. Remember, we have 3 candidates who've been endorsed by Donald Trump. We've got Governor Mike Dunleavy, Kelly Chewbacca, who's running against Senator Murkowski, and now we have Sarah Palin in the congressional race. So we have 3 of all of our seats, our statewide seats, have been endorsed by Donald Trump. This is huge, as he would say.
Huge.
Yeah. Well, I know we got to go. We were kind of running out of time here for our half-hour show. Is there anything else we missed? Lots we missed, of course.
Well, we just want to thank Charlie Pierce for governor one more time for sponsoring this show. Because of his sponsorship, we're able to get conservative news in all the nooks and crannies of Alaska, and we are very thankful for that. And also thankful for all of other sponsors that have ads with us on Must Read Alaska's website. If you're a business or a candidate out there and you want to run an ad with us, feel free to shoot us an email at johnjohn@mustreadalaska.com.
Right. And if you'd like to support the conservative side of the news and you don't want an ad, but you just want to support us, we really appreciate it. The donate button is on the right-hand side of the page, and it helps us keep the lights on. There's lots of things that we have to pay for to make this all come to you in the podcast, in the newsletter, and on the website. And we do it every single day, 7 days a week. And we just really want to thank you for all your support. So until Wednesday, when John has the show, we're signing off from somewhere in Alaska.